Hey, I need to discuss something serious with you. Take a moment and come here, Mr. Turner said. The president of the second generation had called me, so I went to his office. My contract had expired, so it was likely related to that. We're done here, he said. Since your contract is up, please gather your belongings and don't get in touch with me ever again. Mr. Turner simply grinned as he handed me the contract. There were a lot of things we needed to talk about, like the company's systems or my severance money. To my surprise, the contract no longer included the severance pay clause. What is this? I asked. You assumed the contract was the same as previously and didn't even bother to look it over. You're responsible for that, he said. It was true. After he was elected president, I had signed the contract, which was extended until the end of the year. I hadn't read the entire contract because it looked nearly the same as the ones before it. I never thought the severance compensation clause would be eliminated. What is going on here? I asked. For someone like you, why would I squander money on severance? He replied. You would have figured that out by now if you were intelligent. Anger boiled up inside me, and I found it difficult to control my feelings. Yes, I was at fault for not carefully reading the contract, and I wasn't going to argue about it. But the fact that Mr. Turner was abandoning all the principles the previous president stood for was something I couldn't tolerate. Someone like you is worthless, so pay attention. When your contract expires, there will be no severance. Goodbye. I knew I was done with him the instant I heard those words. I immediately went to get my laptop. I'm Lucas, and I work as a software engineer. I began working in this field 10 years ago, immediately following my high school graduation. The path to becoming an engineer wasn't simple. Thank you for having me, I said on my first day. Oh, I see. Are you Lucas? I am aware of you. Let's collaborate effectively, the senior engineer said. I was raised by my single mother after my parents divorced when I was in middle school. My father had been in charge of all the money, so when he left, he took everything with him. After the divorce, life was quite difficult. Nevertheless, my mother put forth a lot of effort to help me, and I was able to complete middle school. I did everything I could to help my mom by working part-time jobs to pay for my tuition while I was in high school. However, my mother eventually became unwell and couldn't continue working. At that point, I decided to seek a job instead of continuing with college. You must first understand the fundamentals because you are a novice. My senior, Mark, advised. There are several things to keep in mind, such as writing efficient code. You'll quickly be given responsibility if you put in the effort. Under Mark's guidance, I progressively acquired the skills and knowledge required to be an engineer. However, I was the only person without a college degree in the organization. I was a recent high school graduate working part-time, while everyone else had joined as college graduates. Despite having the same objective, we were starting from quite different places. Because of my status, I was never trusted with important jobs. My lack of a college degree was a major barrier, even though skills were evaluated. Despite being encouraged to strive for full-time employment, it was difficult to continue. You're capable of doing this. I believe in you. I know it's difficult to gain the company's trust, but keep pushing, Mark said. Yes, I'll keep at it, I replied. I put forth more effort than ever to become a successful engineer. I studied online every day once I returned home. A year later, I knew more than the recent college graduates. Allow me to introduce you to Timothy from the sales division. It's good to meet you, Mark said. I've known him since college. We have a long history of friendship. Pleasure to meet you, I said. Even though I had been producing good work at the company, I was still hindered by not having a degree. Mark was the only one who truly looked out for me, even introducing me to a salesman named Timothy. Although the introduction had no bearing on my profession, I felt trusted because Mark would attest to my character in such a way, and for that I was grateful. I'm grateful for today, I told Timothy. Please invite me again. Timothy also started to like me, and we grew close enough that he occasionally took me out for drinks. As my engineering skills improved, I was finally assigned to a small project. With more experience, I would eventually become the project manager for a large project. That was the goal at the moment. One evening, Timothy asked me out for drinks again. "Thanks for coming out tonight. I won't be able to go out drinking for a while because I'm probably going to get pretty busy soon." "Are you busy? Is a new project in the works?" I asked. "The project isn't particularly new. I'm becoming self-sufficient. I'm starting my own business. But it's still a long way off," he said with a broad smile. I was utterly taken aback. I knew he did excellent work, and although he was relatively young, he had a respectable job and a comfortable life. It implied he was likely earning a solid living, but he never gave any hint of becoming self-sufficient. "You're going independent." "Yes, I didn't want to leave on bad terms because this organization has done a lot for me, and I owe them for caring for me and treating me well. For this reason, I've been carefully speaking with them to make sure the leaving goes smoothly." "I understand. That's amazing." I'm impressed and startled at the same time because I've never considered becoming independent. Timothy was thinking about the business that had helped him, not just about himself. That may be expected of any professional, but his success was likely largely due to his careful handling of everything and his avoidance of causing controversy. Timothy then went into further depth about his intentions. He intended to start an internet retail company using the contacts he had made. "That sounds fantastic. I wish you luck. However, I still have a long way to go. I have a lot of work to do before I'm prepared. Since it will take that long to get ready, I want to work on it alone for the first year after I quit the company." "Couldn't you set things up to run smoothly and then leave the company later?" "I can't balance running a side business with the work I'm now responsible for. Furthermore, it wouldn't be considerate to the business." Everyone around him admired and liked him because of his genuineness. That's what I really thought. We had a great time at our large celebration that evening. However, after listening to Timothy's experience, I also began to consider becoming self-sufficient. Timothy's narrative further fueled my desire to place myself in a situation where I could rely entirely on my own abilities. The want to prove my skills had been sparked, but I realized I still had a ways to go before I was truly acknowledged as an engineer. Projects at the same level as the ones I'm working on today can be managed independently by me. In the future, I want to start my own software development business, expand my portfolio, and take on freelancing employment. At the conclusion of the month, I made the decision to quit the company. After speaking with Mark and my bosses, I felt prepared to give it my best, even if it was a risky move and I lacked a clear plan. Timothy extended an offer to collaborate with me a year later. Although it was an enticing offer, I was put in a challenging situation. In actuality, I had recently launched my own business and successfully transitioned to freelancing. I couldn't just go work for someone else now, even if it was a fantastic opportunity. I appreciate the offer. However, I recently started my own business. It's a software development company, but I'm still the only employee." "Really? That's amazing. Well done." Although Timothy responded enthusiastically, I knew it was probably not the response he was looking for. He was truly pleased for me, even though he undoubtedly thought I would enthusiastically accept his offer to work for his company. "Well, I suppose I should simply assign the assignment to a subcontractor from your organization. Isn't it a software development company? You must construct our system for me. Are you reliable since you operate your own business? We may subcontract instead of hiring you as our in-house engineer, which is what I had hoped." I had taken on a few freelancing jobs before formally starting my own business, but this project, creating a web application for an e-commerce company, was by far the largest one I had ever been offered. Everything would have to be built from the ground up by myself. Timothy trusted me despite my company's inexperience, and I was resolved to do everything in my power to live up to his expectations. From the bottom of my heart, I genuinely felt that after that, we kept up our relationship, and I worked on teaching his engineering team and developing and maintaining systems. 30 years went by in the blink of an eye, and Timothy retired. Mr. Turner, who had been the vice president for a few years, was elected president as he became older. "Hey, got a minute?" "Yes, I take it you're under contract. You might want to start looking for another employment because I want to fire all contract staff once I take control." I was abruptly summoned and informed of this. I was able to get by without the work from Timothy's company by this point because my own business had expanded significantly. Although I would want to concentrate only on my business, my friendship with Timothy kept me employed there as an outside contractor. I wouldn't mind going back to my own business full-time, but I was surprised by how abrupt the company situation was. What does this mean to you? It's quite abrupt. I mean, I'm not going to spend my money on someone like you. We don't need pointless individuals wasting their time on computers. Without hesitation, Mr. Turner told me this directly. It was obvious that he only cared about people's academic credentials ever since he became vice president. But I wasn't sure if that was a cost-cutting measure or if he just didn't like me. He evaluated each person's performance at work only based on their educational background. Does this have something to do with the fact that I didn't graduate from college? Whoa, you got it right. You could understand that much even with a high school graduation, wouldn't you? Confirming my suspicions. I love a sigh. This organization employs workers with a wide range of educational backgrounds. Some have only completed high school, others have attended vocational schools or lower-ranked institutions, and some had even completed only middle school. Timothy has always made hiring decisions without considering an applicant's level of schooling. In the modern world, you can learn a variety of talents on your own. Mr. Turner held higher education in high regard and didn't realize that a person's value isn't determined by their college degree, probably because of his own academic success. But I couldn't help but sigh once again. "Are you firing me right now?" "No, I'm not really that cold. Your contract will be extended until the end of the year by me." "All right. Don't forget to find another employment after that." Was this how he showed kindness? Nevertheless, I had invested 30 years in this business. The company was considerably larger than mine because Timothy always prioritized its expansion, but I had managed my own business and supported the corporation. It may sound conceited, but I had given Timothy my time and experience in return for all that he had done for me, and now Mr. Turner was severing me quickly without knowing any of that. Realizing that complaining would not change anything, I sighed deeply and resolved to give it my all till the conclusion of my contract. "But hey, why don't you go clean the bathroom or something?" "What? Cleaning the bathroom, you mean?" "That's basically all you can do as a useless person. Get to work. The president has given you the command." Not only did Mr. Turner harass me, but he harassed every employee who was going to be fired. In addition to being constantly lectured, we were made to perform duties that were outside the purview of our jobs, such as cleaning the restrooms. It went on and on. I kept working on the tasks assigned to me despite the surroundings. I could have resigned immediately, of course, but I didn't want to upset the other workers or the business. "Thank you for your help today." "Not at all. Please get in touch if you have any other inquiries." My last day eventually arrived, but I continued to work until the end of the year. "Hey, I need to discuss something with you. Take a moment to come here." Mr. Turner called me in, and I went to his office. Most likely it had to do with my contract expiring. "We're done here since your contract is up. Don't ever call me again and pack away your belongings." It was his arrogant demeanor that left me speechless. How could Mr. Turner have been thinking we still had issues to talk about, such as the system I worked on and severance money? There couldn't be a simple goodbye. What are you discussing? We must talk about the system and severance. You worthless idiot, you won't receive a single dime of severance. Give up attempting to drain the resources of this business. I wasn't making an unreasonable request. I had been promised severance pay equal to that of a normal employee by Timothy. The contract ought to have made that apparent. Although I didn't require the money, Timothy gave it to me as a token of gratitude. It should be in the contract, the part about severance pay. Are you talking about this contract? Mr. Turner smirked and took out my contract. It appeared to be the identical one that I had signed every time, with assurance. If you're truly receiving severance, show me where it says that. I looked for the provision in the contract I got from him. I quickly turned to the last page because it had usually been written at the very end. Severance money, however, was not mentioned. I also looked through the other pages, but couldn't find anything. I even opened the copy stored on my phone as a PDF. I was shocked to discover that my copy also lacked the severance clause. Thus, the paper was not fabricated by Mr. Turner. What is going on? You didn't bother to check since you assumed it was the same as before. You were responsible for that. It was true. I had signed the contract after he was elected president, and I had extended it until the end of the year. I hadn't gone over every line because it appeared to be almost the same as the earlier contracts. I never thought the severance clause would have been eliminated. What is the meaning of this? You believe that, for someone like you, we would squander money on severance? You would have figured that out by now if you were intelligent. I had to struggle to control my emotions as anger erupted from the pit of my stomach. Yes, my failure to read the entire contract was my mistake. I wasn't going to debate it, but I couldn't overlook Mr. Turner's blatant disregard for the values Timothy had upheld. Someone like you is worthless, so pay attention. When your contract expires, there will be no severance. Goodbye. I lost my patience entirely at that point. Although I never thought he would be so self-centered, it made clear to me the type of president he truly was. I get it. I appreciate everything you've done so far. After saying that, I bowed and went back to my work. Naturally, I wasn't going to overlook this. The same treatment should be given to those who behave unfairly. I gathered my belongings, bid my co-workers farewell, and departed the organization. As soon as I arrived home, I opened my laptop and started working on something. The next day, Mr. Turner called me. "Hey, what the hell is going on? Why are you contacting me at such an early hour and shouting like that? Where are your manners? You turned off every system we utilize." "That's what's happening," I replied. Though I hadn't heard him yell like that before, I wasn't shocked. I knew this was coming. I just wasn't prepared for him to get in touch with me so quickly. "I certainly did. My contract was not renewed by you." "What agreement? What do you know?" "Absolutely nothing. You are also the president." As I said it, I couldn't help but smile. My attitude was making Mr. Turner, with his inflated pride, yell at me even more. "Do you even know what I'm doing?" "I have no idea what you're about. Why would you have the power to disable the system when you were always tinkering with it? No one else was aware of this. How is this possible?" Mr. Turner obviously didn't know what I had been doing for the business. When he took over from Timothy, he must have been taught everything, but he either ignored it or forgot it. Now that the company's system was down, he was in a panic. Accounting software and employee management applications were among the impacted systems. At the end of each month, we receive a mountain of invoices from our numerous remote workers. This was about to go horribly wrong. Say something. I'm open to renegotiating the contract. As the CEO of the business that created the system, we might even go from the previous usage fee approach to a buyout strategy. You must, of course, first apologize on your knees." "What?" I said it clearly, aware that there might be repercussions. Although I had already notified the accounting and management teams, my reputation might suffer if Timothy found out. I was absolutely within my rights to limit access to the system and not renew the contract, but I couldn't help but wonder if Timothy would be disappointed in me. That thought persisted. Nevertheless, I was unable to overlook Mr. Turner's actions. "You've overreached yourself. Get to the office, because I'm coming over right now." Later that afternoon, I went to the company because I didn't want to keep the system offline indefinitely. "Hey, I've been anticipating your arrival. Let's go to the office of the president." I was shocked to see Timothy in the lobby waiting for me. He must have hurried to the company after learning of the situation. I had my justification, but I had no idea what Timothy was thinking or how much he knew. As we walked to the president's office, neither of us spoke. "Excuse me," Timothy said after knocking. He entered the president's office, where Mr. Turner was standing sternly and commandingly. "I'm very sorry. I really apologize for the rude treatment you received, and I kindly request your pardon." To my surprise, it was Timothy who apologized to me. Hold on, what's happening? Why is Timothy expressing regret? He was about to bow his head, and Mr. Turner was desperate to stop him. It was obvious that Mr. Turner believed Timothy would support him and be upset with me, but the truth was completely different. "Timothy, please lift your head. You quit behaving that way. You ought to apologize with him." "What kind of nonsense are you spouting? I've known Timothy for 40 years, and I've never seen him this furious." Mr. Turner was obviously frightened by the strength of his rage, and the room's atmosphere immediately grew strained. "Please don't exacerbate my already existing anger. Who do you believe is in charge of this mess?" "Well, you see, are you attempting to push things through with an authoritarian mindset, refusing to accept accountability for your actions? I never imagined you to be such a person. I would never have chosen you to be president if I had known. But first and foremost, you must apologize." Timothy's voice was low and threatening, and Mr. Turner turned to me and bowed his head, clearly defeated. "What is it?" "First of all, I'm sorry about the contract," Mr. Turner muttered, apologizing for what he had done. I was more interested in Timothy's response at the time, but maybe he assumed I was furious about not getting the severance. What would Timothy do about this? "So, how are you going to accept accountability for what you did? You're not a kid, and you're definitely not a typical worker. You have harmed this business. How are you going to make things right?" Mr. Turner had gone white, and Timothy had fixed him squarely in his sights. He was probably searching for the correct response, but he couldn't think of anything that made sense. Turner had always been self-centered, using force to crush anything he didn't like. It was difficult to think that someone like him would be as sincere as Timothy had hoped. A new deal might be negotiated. "The usage fee will be larger than it was previously, and I'll make sure to offer a higher fee." "That's not what I'm talking about." Mr. Turner's face twisted in terror as Timothy's voice reverberated throughout the president's office. It was obvious that Turner had set off a landmine and discovered his error too late. Now Timothy was truly furious. "Let me be clear, you are dismissed. If you don't realize the seriousness of what you did, I will not let you run this business any longer." "What? Surely you must be kidding." Mr. Turner stumbled. "Do you believe that jokes are appropriate at this time?" Timothy fired back. "Your mind must be in the clouds if you genuinely think that. It sounds like your brain is tinier than a microchip, but I heard you despise those who have only completed high school." Timothy's scathing remarks left Mr. Turner utterly stunned. Even I hadn't anticipated that Timothy would use the word "fired," but it demonstrated how seriously he took this. Timothy added, "What you did is completely unforgivable. You abused your authority as president to further your personal agenda rather than the interests of the business. That kind of person has no business managing a business." "Wait, please. Are you unable to change your mind?" Mr. Turner begged. "I can't be fired like this. I acknowledge that what I did was a serious error, but you understand, don't you? You cannot be forgiven for what you did, and I will not pardon you. accept responsibility, and quit this organization." Mr. Turner fell to his knees as Timothy uttered this. He started to weep aloud and bowed down in front of Timothy, a sharp contrast to his customary controlling demeanor. "I implore you, will you not pardon me? Do you believe everything will be resolved by sobbing and pleading for forgiveness? Act like a man and accept responsibility for your actions." Timothy refused to budge, despite Mr. Turner's repeated apologies and appeals. Then Timothy escorted me into a nearby meeting room out of the president's office. With a voice full of sadness, Timothy added, "I sincerely apologize for everything that transpired since I appointed him president. I also bear some of the blame for this. I never thought he would become this way. I sincerely apologize." I never held Timothy responsible for any of this, as he had already expressed regret to me before we entered the president's office. Although Timothy didn't have to apologize, this was his way of being genuine. "Timothy, you don't have to say sorry. This is not your fault. You don't realize how much you've helped me. This business wouldn't exist as it does now without you. Treating someone like you, a vital member of the team, with such disdain was unacceptable," Timothy said, his eyes filling with tears as he conveyed his appreciation. "We can use our system for less than a tenth of the typical cost because you constructed it for a fraction of the market price. You devoted your time to training our engineering team as the business expanded. Even our new hires benefit from your guidance. Because of you, this business has prospered for 30 years. You were always there for me, even when things got rough for the company or when I faced personal problems. Your presence is the reason we have progressed to this point. I sincerely appreciate it." As he talked, Timothy held my hand tightly and looked into my eyes. I was also moved to tears when I saw Timothy in that state. He owed me so much. He introduced me to customers and showed me how to manage a business. I owe you just as much. I doubt I will ever be able to pay you back for everything you have done for me." "Hearing that makes everything I've done feel worthwhile," Timothy said with a smile. "I sincerely appreciate it, and once more I apologize for all that transpired. Could we keep working together?" Even though I knew I wasn't in a position to ask, Timothy appeared remorseful, and I had my response ready. "Obviously, I'm excited to collaborate with you once more." We reaffirmed our partnership with a firm handshake. Ultimately, Mr. Turner lost his job and was evicted from the organization. Since Timothy's business was sizable, news of Mr. Turner swiftly spread both within and outside the sector. It seems that he was unable to obtain employment and now lives alone in obscurity. After losing his job and being deserted by his family, he had wasted most of his earnings over the years, and his ex-wife seized what little money he had left over as child support. He was clearly leading a horrible life, but it was a fitting finish for someone who had done so much harm. For my part, I focused on managing my own business while still maintaining my close friendship with Timothy. Now that he is back in his position as president, Timothy is committed to coaching the company's future CEO. I'm taking my time to develop some great talent that we brought in, interested in the president position, he informed me. "That's fantastic. Again, I would love to learn more from you. I have also been considering the possibility that it may soon be time to hand over my business to someone else. When the time comes, I'll need to learn those talents from you." One of the most important things in my life was meeting Timothy. Naturally, I can't claim nothing. Life has always been simple, but it has had its difficulties, obstacles, and times when I felt emotionally trapped. However, each time I looked at Timothy, I thought, I want to work as hard as he does. Timothy had the same opinion of me. We frequently fail to recognize the extent to which we are assisting others because life is unpredictable. For this reason, I think it's critical to have faith in our current course of action. A better tomorrow and future will undoubtedly await you when you unite with those who value you and who value you in return. Live fully and concentrate on the now. This lesson has stuck with me, and I intend to live my life accordingly from now on.